No, ma'am, this establishment maintains certain standards, Arthur said without raising his voice. Perhaps you've mistaken us for somewhere more suitable. Then he turned away, adjusting his cuff, as if brushing off an invisible speck of dust. The air around them was still like inside a chapel, but in Evelyn's chest, something pulsed, slow, heavy, and deep. She stood there, silent. A cold wave traced her spine. The eyes of those nearby, the receptionist, the concierge, the guests waiting to check in, turned to her all at once like spotlights, watching, judging, curious. A woman in a plain hoodie, dark jeans, and pristine logo-free white sneakers. Far too ordinary for this place. The main lobby of the St. Regis Legacy was a symphony of opulence. Carrara marble floors gleamed white as ice. Overhead, a Murano chandelier exploded into hundreds of glittering shards, pouring light like champagne onto the floor below. A whisper of bergamot and sandalwood drifted through the air from the scent diffuser, just enough to make one feel elite, even if they weren't. And in the midst of all that perfection, Evelyn Reed, billionaire, PhD CEO, and owner of the Elysian Hotels chain, was being treated like she didn't belong. She placed a hand on the reception counter, the stone cool beneath her palm, like the ice in a Chicago winter where she grew up. Arthur Vance, the general manager, stood before her. Salt and pepper hair-tailored suit, the faint trace of Tom Ford Oud Wood cologne. He was the kind of man who guarded the gates to the chosen world. He never actually looked at her. He looked through her as if she were an unfortunate inconvenience. Presidential penthouse, Evelyn had said earlier, voice soft as breath but unmistakably clear. The founder's suite. I have a reservation. Arthur gave a tight smile, the kind reserved for people who'd walked through the wrong door. A smile that said, "We know who our real clients are, and you're not one of them." Evelyn recognized that look. She had seen it 20 years ago in the eyes of a hotel doorman, directed at her father, a black man in a worn suit holding a blueprint tube chasing a dream. "They don't see us, baby," her father's voice echoed in her memory. "They only see what they want to see." Evelyn blinked, just once, revealing nothing. Her hand moved calmly as she set down the American Express Centurion card. The black card glinted under the crystal light. She didn't need to raise her voice, didn't need to explain. She just had to wait and see who had truly made the mistake. The Centurion card lay on the stone counter like an unexploded bullet. Matte black, nothing flashy. But those who knew. Brittany Sutton approached. Ivory bodycon dress, crimson heels, voluminous curls like a perfume ad. She picked up the card between two fingers as if pinching an insect. A quick glance at Arthur. He gave the slightest nod. That was enough. "Security to the front desk," she said into her radio, her voice flat but deliberately loud. "We have a situation involving unauthorized access to the upper floors." The word situation cracked through the air like a fissure. Guests nearby shifted slightly. A few looked up. An elderly white man took a cautious step back. Evelyn didn't move. Good, she thought. Let them finish their performance. She heard footsteps echoing from the distance, thud, thud, thud. Then Chad Miller arrived. Barely in his 20s, in a tight security uniform that looked like a Marine cosplay. He walked like he was on a tactical fashion runway. "Ma'am," Chad said, voice firm but overly rehearsed. "I'll need to retain this card for verification. Hotel security policy." Evelyn looked him in the eyes. 1 second. 2. Said nothing. "Immediately," Chad added, holding out his hand. "What verification protocol?" she asked, her voice as light as feathers. Chad hesitated. turned to Arthur. Another nod, this one more pronounced. Chad took the card, moved toward the scanner but didn't scan. Instead, he turned and walked toward the safe behind the counter. Click, the safe door opened. Evelyn didn't follow with her eyes. But her hand, the same hand that had signed hundreds of billion-dollar deals, tensed slightly. She didn't care about the card. She cared about what it represented. Stripping, publicly, in front of everyone. She heard the safe shut clack, an echo of all the doors once slammed in her father's face. From the side of the desk, a young woman stood frozen, Izzy Flores, the concierge intern, eyes wide, fingers clutching her iPad, her gaze locked on Evelyn not from curiosity, but recognition. She knew that name, Evelyn Reed, founder of Elysian. The woman who hosts startup podcasts is called a legend. The woman is now being treated like an intruder, but she said nothing. Lips pressed tight. Part fear, part not enough courage. Arthur crossed his arms and leaned casually against the counter. His voice poured like syrup into a chilled martini glass. You understand. We can't have just anyone claiming to be someone important. Security is our top priority. Evelyn looked at him. No anger, no trembling, only sadness, the kind that wears down stone over time. She pulled out her phone. One tap, one message. Initiate Phoenix Protocol. The sound of the safe shutting still echoed in Evelyn's ears, as if cold metal had brushed against her very bones. She didn't look. She didn't react. But inside a different door was opening. 25 years ago. Chicago. February. The sky hung heavy in a shade of lead. Evelyn, only 8 years old, gripped her father's hand tightly. They stood in front of a grand hotel on the Magnificent Mile. The warm yellow lights inside reflected off the glass, making passers-by look like they were stepping into another world. Her father, David Reed, wore a light gray suit, the collar slightly frayed. In his hand was a tube of architectural drawings. Designs he called dreams in concrete and glass. He had stayed up 3 nights straight to finish them, hoping to meet an investor who could change everything. Remember, he said, adjusting his tie gently, where there are dreams, there are opportunities. But they never made it through the revolving door. The doorman, a white man, face cold as cash, blocked them. No name asked, no explanation offered. Just a single scan from head to toe. Then he said, the conference is being held in a private space. Uninvited guests are not permitted. No argument, no chance. Just a shake of the head, slight but sharp as a razor. Her father stepped back. His shoulders dropped a little. He didn't cry, he didn't rage, he just shrank. As if the air around him had thickened, crushing the dream inside him into fine dust. Evelyn, standing beside him, felt like someone had taught her a lesson, not with words, but with bricks. They don't see us, baby. They only see what they want to see. He didn't say those words that day, but years later, when illness had hollowed him out, and he stared blankly at a hospital ceiling, he finally did. And now, Evelyn, standing in the St. Regis lobby, couldn't stop that memory from rising. Not to pity herself, but to remember why she was here. She wasn't fighting for reputation. She wasn't fighting because of the insult. She was reclaiming the room her father never got to enter. A bead of cold sweat formed at her temple, not from fear, but from emotion rising like a tidal wave behind a crumbling dam. Yet her face remained unchanged. From across the room, Izzy was still watching. In that moment, the young intern sensed something beyond power or wealth, a silence, almost sacred. And within that silence, Arthur looked all the more ridiculous. He was smiling at Brittany, as if they'd just handled a minor disturbance. He didn't know. A storm was building, and it carried the legacy of a father once turned away. Arthur cleared his throat, the sound echoing through the grand lobby like a smug tap on a crystal table. "I believe we've made ourselves quite clear, Ms. Reed," he said, lips tightening into a cold, flat line, as if her name had just soiled his mouth. "No record, no valid card, no access. This hotel has standards. And a reputation." Brittany chimed in, adjusting the shoulder of her blazer like an actress about to step into the spotlight. "We can't let just anyone compromise that." Evelyn didn't respond. She simply looked and swiped her phone with one finger. Just one gesture. Light. Precise. No drum roll. Phoenix Protocol activated. No one noticed anything unusual. No alarms. No sirens. Just a small blink in one of the facial recognition cameras. And in a far-off place, the rooftop of a Manhattan skyscraper, a control room quietly shifted from green to red. Evelyn stood still, unshaken. Arthur, on the other hand, began to ramble, waving his hands, explaining to two guests who were eyeing the scene with curiosity. "Just a minor mix-up. Our systems are very strict." The more he spoke, the louder his voice grew. The more he smiled, the more forced it looked, as if afraid that 1 second of silence might swallow him whole. Brittany was typing furiously into her phone. Chad stood like a statue by the safe, eyes darting, now beginning to sense that something wasn't right. Evelyn turned, took a single unhurried step toward a nearby table where a glossy brochure about the hotel chain was displayed. Her finger flipped through each page, brushing past hollow slogans about timeless luxury, where legacy meets the future. She didn't read them. She was counting. 7 seconds, 12, 21. A message arrived on her phone. Just one word confirmed. She set the phone down, and for the first time in the past 10 minutes, she smiled. Not a smirk, not a triumphant grin, just a slight curve at the corner of her lips, as if someone had just rewritten the rules and she was the one holding the pen. Arthur didn't notice. He was too busy explaining hotel procedures to a newly arrived group of German tourists. Chad was still gripping the safe, as if it could shield him from what was coming. Brittany kept typing like a whirlwind, unaware that every server ping was now out of sync. Evelyn's silence was not helplessness. It was the quiet roar of a deeper force, one forged over generations. Every smug remark they made, every glance, every condescending smile, was a pin quietly pulled from the fortress they believed unshakable. And Evelyn, she just stood there in that golden lobby like a small crack in a perfect wall, one no one noticed, until everything was about to collapse. It started with nothing more than the shaky tap of a keyboard. Click, click, click. Izzy Flores, the young front desk assistant with hastily tied curls and eyes that rarely met anyone's gaze, was typing something, fingers trembling. She swallowed, hard eyes darting between Arthur, Brittany, and Evelyn. No one noticed her. Arthur was still rambling to the guests about enhanced security protocols. Brittany stood with arms crossed as if her Versace blazer could shield her from any form of dissent. Evelyn remained silent, still standing like an unmoved axis in the middle of a gathering storm. Then Izzy's voice broke the quiet, soft, thin, but impossible to ignore. "Sir, there's a note." The sentence hung in the air. Arthur turned, frowning. "What note?" Izzy swallowed again. "In the card profile, there's an override code. A note from Amex Global: do not deny service. Provide full executive support." The last part came out in a rush, as if she feared being cut off. The lobby felt like it had been split open. A businessman nearby squinted. "Did she just say Amex Black? That's a real Centurion card." A middle-aged Canadian woman whispered, I've seen that card once, in Zurich. No one cancels it except the group CEO. An older couple simply nodded as if they had just realized something they nearly missed. Arthur flushed. Are you certain don't make me call corporate again? I already did, Izzy said this time with steadier resolve. They're in the process of reconfirming. And I've been instructed to halt all intervention. The air crackled with murmurs. A subtle circle began to form. No one said a word, but everyone shifted from passive onlookers to witnesses with opinions. A black guest said aloud, I've been standing here the whole time. She didn't cause a scene. You people did. An East Asian man raised his phone. I recorded this, posted on Reddit, and this hotel's gone by morning. You won't have jobs after tonight, a platinum-haired woman said, not even bothering to lower her voice. Evelyn still said nothing, but she stepped forward, just enough to stand level with the reception desk. Arthur stepped half a pace back. Brittany looked around. Her confidence began to crack. Chad still clenched his fists, but he looked like he might throw up. A new message came in. This time the landline rang. Izzy picked it up, nodded, eyes wide. Then she looked at Evelyn as if awaiting a command. Evelyn spoke just one sentence, reconnect, but this time with the right person. Izzy nodded, transferred the call. The speaker activated the voice of a man clear, deep, and cold with authority. This is the COO of Marriott International. All procedural violations by St. Regis staff are under immediate review. This call is being monitored. The crowd held its breath. Arthur blinked. Brittany's hands shook, and Evelyn simply tilted her head like a general who had summoned her reinforcements and now only needed to wait for the execution. No one had time to prepare. The voice from the phone continued emotionless, uninterrupted. No longer a person, but an authority speaking on behalf of a system operating like a machine. I have reviewed the security footage. The full audio recording is now stored on the cloud. Based on discriminatory behavior and severe violations of Marriott Global's service standards, I am requesting the immediate suspension of all involved personnel, effective immediately. Each word fell like an execution order. Arthur's face drained of color. Wait, surely there's some kind of misunderstanding. I was just protecting the brand from impersonation. The guest's card has been authenticated. The override note was written by the chairman of Amex himself. You are not authorized to deny service. Initiating access revocation protocol. A sharp sound cut through the air. Beep! Arthur looked down in shock. His staff ID badge flashed from green to red. Another beep. Brittany's badge changed color. No one said a word. Chad reached for the card in his back pocket, but before his fingers touched it, beep, a burst of red. 3 of them, standing in the center of the lobby, like ghosts just erased from the system. A long silence followed. Heavy, final, no applause, no laughter, just the dry, soundless collapse of something once assumed permanent. Arthur stammered. I've been serving here for 20 years, and your record will be included in the internal disciplinary report. Thank you for your service. The final line landed like a period at the end of an era. The call disconnected. Brittany's breathing turned shallow. Her eyes darted. This can't be happening. This can't be real. Evelyn stepped forward. For the first time that day, she spoke aloud. Not an insult, not retaliation, just a statement, cold as winter steel, it's very real. A security officer approached. No one had summoned him. He needed no introduction. He looked at Arthur, Brittany, and Chad, then invited them to step away from their posts. No force, but no room for refusal. Arthur slowly removed his name badge. Brittany clutched the strap of her purse like she was holding onto a past already gone. No one clapped. No one cheered. Just silent guests stepping aside, parting the way for Evelyn, now no longer just a woman denied service, but the embodiment of justice in high heels. And as the revolving doors closed behind Arthur, time itself seemed to shut the door on an old era and open something new. The lobby still lingered in the silence after the storm. The Murano chandeliers above continued to shimmer, but their light seemed gentler now, as if they too understood the shift rumbling beneath the surface. Evelyn turned around. No more piercing stares, no more defensive stance, just a woman unarmored, steady, in the quietest kind of strength. Izzy Flores stood behind the counter, eyes wide, hands trembling slightly. The girl who had first dared to speak now seemed afraid her courage had gone too far. Evelyn walked over. No fanfare, no announcement. She stopped directly in front of Izzy, placing one hand on the marble counter, a simple gesture, but one heavy with meaning. "You okay?" Evelyn asked, her voice just above a whisper. Izzy blinked. I don't know. I didn't think I just saw something wrong." A slow smile crept across Evelyn's face, almost sorrowful. "Wrong," she repeated, as if tasting a familiar flavor. "That's the scent I grew up with. It clung to my father's calloused hands. It soaked into the fabric of his work clothes." From her pocket, she pulled out a small black box and opened it. Inside was a silver executive general manager's pin, the hotel name delicately hand-engraved. "My father once worked in a hotel like this. He never got to wear one of these. Not because he wasn't good enough, but because he didn't fit the image." She gently placed the pin on the counter in front of Izzy. "Courage," Evelyn said, her voice husky, "is the most valuable thing we've got. And you've got plenty of it." Izzy opened her mouth, tried to speak, but nothing came. Tears welled at the edges of her eyes, but she lifted her chin, this time standing tall. Behind them, other staff members began quietly emerging from the back offices, those who had witnessed it all. They said nothing, but in their eyes was acknowledgement, respect, and a fragile hope that maybe things would be different now. A janitor bowed his head as Evelyn passed. The barista at the lounge paused, then nodded slowly. No official memo was needed. Change had begun. Before stepping away, Evelyn turned one last time. "Tomorrow," she said to Izzy, "wear the suit that makes you feel strongest. We have a hotel to rebuild." Izzy bit her lip, nodded like a soldier who'd just been handed the flag by her commander. Sunlight streamed through the glass facade, landing perfectly on the silver pin between the two women. It sparkled like the first light after a long, dark night. 2 weeks later. A sea breeze drifted gently across the rooftop terrace of the St. Regis, carrying with it the scent of salt and the faint hint of bergamot from the small garden Evelyn had recently replanted. She stood alone by the railing, a cup of black tea in hand. Not an ornate Italian crystal glass, just a simple, rough ceramic mug warm against her fingers. Below, the hotel lobby had taken on a new tone. The Carrara marble floors and opulent Murano chandeliers remained, but now woven among the luxury were human touches, a framed group photo of the front desk team. A new display in the lounge titled "The Keepers of Hospitality," listing the names of every long-standing staff member, regardless of title. Evelyn walked slowly into her office. Morning light poured through the window behind her, casting a glow across a black and white photo of her father resting on her desk, smiling, holding a mop, his eyes reflecting quiet pride. She gently touched the frame like a handshake across time. "We weren't forgotten, Dad." Behind her desk, a new brass plaque had been mounted on the wall. Nothing flashy, just a few words. "Honor doesn't come from power. It comes from how we treat those without it. EMR, No oversized signature, no job title, just 3 lines to remember and to remind. A knock on the door. It was Izzy. Today she wore a black suit with a soft lavender necktie. Her eyes were bright, no longer timid. She gave a small nod, then handed Evelyn the first folder for the new staff training program on equity and multicultural respect. Evelyn smiled. No need to look it over. Launch it, she said. Let's keep writing this story. Outside the glass windows, the sun had fully risen. Light spilled through every pane, flooding the hallways, gliding across each polished tile, a light no longer filtered through layers of old bias. For the first time in decades, St. Regis truly belonged to everyone. And you, reader, who stayed with us this far, you're now a part of that legacy. If this story moved, you don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the Story Precious channel so that more tales of courage, grace, and hope can continue to be told. Because we're not just telling stories, we're leaving a mark.